Okay, video by Buff All Might. Every sorcerer should be doing this. Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's see.
But one of the things I was thinking about recently, why don't more sorcerers do this one thing? At first I thought it was because the number one sorcerer, like the best sorcerer of the modern age, only person we see do this. What I'm referring to is programmed or pre-programmed curse techniques. One thing that we learned in the series, Gojo was able to pre-program his curse technique, the Infinity, to function automatically without his input.
Oh,
And he's able to kind of get away with this to a high degree.
okay. When he said pre-programmed curse techniques, I was a little confused what he meant by that, but he's just talking about like Gojo's automatic infinity. I don't.
Because
Okay.
he has reverse curse technique and because he has.
But how would everybody do this is the question though, because I think with the infinity barrier, I mean, honestly, I don't even know how Gojo did it. Like, how do you actually program it to do that?
Six eyes. But all the reverse curse technique does for Gojo is that it increases his runtime, basically increases how long he can keep that technique running for, and for him it will be indefinitely. And then the six eyes basically makes the reverse curse technique more efficient. All that to say is that you don't need the six eyes to pre-program your curse energy to do something. We see this.
Here's the weird thing. It feels kind of like a plot hole because Akutami didn't even really like go into deep detail about, like pre-programming curse techniques or how Gojo necessarily like always has his infinity barrier on.
Most prevalently when it comes to people that specialize in creating domains or creating like barriers, because we see that Kenjaku was able to create barriers with different conditions attached to it. And also you don't necessarily need a reverse curse technique to refresh your curse.
Kenjaku was low-key glazing Gojo when he made that freaking anti-Gojo domain during like the Tokyo high school event, whatever it was, like the sister school event, like Yuji versus Toto, and all that.
Energy and your technique all the time because it just helps with mitigating the runtime. So you can, as a Jujutsu sorcerer, take your curse technique, create a condition attached to it that makes it function independently of your will for a certain period of time based on what compartment of your brain you allow to process it. If we go to the hidden inventory arc in the anime, after Gojo learns the reverse curse technique and gains his enlightenment mode. Sometime later, we see Gojo training with the Infinity, and we see him not only able to keep the Infinity running automatically indefinitely due to the six eyes and the reverse curse technique, but we also see he's been able to literally train or pre-program his cursed technique to be selective of what targets make contact with him. The crazy thing about this.
But my thing is, wouldn't this only work for like the limitless barrier? Like just based on the story, like we've never seen anybody else do it, which I get why he, made the title. He's saying that sorcerers should do this, but it's like I'm not even like I feel like what he's saying is like pretty good, but it's just like Akutami, we don't have enough. Akutami didn't give us enough to like really know if this is something necessarily that other sorcerers can do.
Guys, is that curse energy is almost inherently intelligent to a certain degree. We see this with a whole conversation about destiny and fate and reality and heavenly restrictions. Core idea is that curse energy has a default level of intelligence attached to it, and Gojo was able to train his infinity to be selective on things that break through his infinity. So that means he doesn't have to think about what's going to hit him or not. He doesn't have to think about turning his infinity on and off. He literally can just let it run, and the infinity will allow something like a pillow or a eraser to break through, because the infinity would determine that's not really going to do any damage to Gojo. But it'll block a fire attack. It'll block a punch. It'll block like some rock or something coming in to do damage to him. It'll block these things because it has determined, it has like, it's almost like an AI functioning around Gojo that,
Loki,
oh
yeah.
nope, that's bad, infinity on. Oh, that's chill, that's calm, that's not gonna do any damage, I could go through, right? The also other cool thing about it is that Gojo also allows for manual input too. So he can consciously turn off the infinity even if the infinity has determined that this is a danger, right? Like how we see him touch Gojo.
Bro, he was trolling Jogo so hard in this scene, bro. Like he literally slid his fingers through like Jogo's fingers in a super romantic way. It was so weird.
Jogo's hand. And I think this is one of the coolest aspects, the power system of JJK of Curse Energy, because you could pre-program your Curse technique. Why don't other sorcerers do this, right? Like, of course, you're probably not going to do it to the same degree as...
Well, maybe the sole exception is Satoru Gojo, of course, right? Maybe he's truly the only one who could do it. Here's the thing. I think maybe Sukuna could potentially do it if he's seen Gojo do it or something. But even in the manga, well, even in the manga after the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, we still never saw Sukuna like do any pre-programmed curse techniques. But this would have definitely been something cool for Gege Akutami to kind of just expand on a bit, go into detail about it.
Satoru Gojo. But even if you add some simple stuff, bro, even if you add some simple things to pre-programming your curse technique, one, increase your defensive and your reactionary abilities quickly, like projection sorcery, for example. Projection sorcery is, in my opinion, one of those low-key sleeper techniques that if you use a little bit of genius and a little bit of creativity, especially with binding vows and pre-programming it, you could do a lot of cool, crazy.
Ooh, yeah, okay, I like that he brought that up. That's pretty smart. With binding vows, I think what this guy is talking about, pre-programming curse techniques, it really could like, yeah, it could come to life in Jujutsu Kaisen. Binding vows can basically do anything. I'm pretty sure it's speculated that Kenjaku and Sukuna made a binding vow to get open domains, barrierless domains, right?
Stuff, right? You could pre-program combos. You have to kind of plot 24 actions within a single second and you have to commit to that. But you can literally, if you're using binding vows or pre-programming your curse technique, you could literally pre-program combos. You can literally tell like your curse technique, all right, even if you connect it to like a verbal command, right, or some position or some condition, you could pre-program physical combos for your bodies to do, right? You could pre-program distance management. You could be like, all right, instead of plotting your route to a location, you could pre-program your actions to do something beforehand.
Would this kind of be like Naoya's or Naobito's I forget what their curse technique is called, but it's like the way he's saying pre-program in a way and just all that other stuff, it's kind of similar to the 24 frames technique that Naoya and Naobito use. Like you have to already have a set route and then you have to follow that route. It's kind of it's a little bit similar to what he's saying because he's kind of talking about like this pre-program route type of thing.
I just think it's a missed opportunity for a lot of sorcerers to not be pre-programming their curse technique. So, and you could do this either with like binding vows, or we could have a
Yeah.
conversation with Gojo about, yo, how did you train your infinity to be able...
You see, I wish Akutami did that. Like I literally wish Akutami could have expanded on that, but he didn't. That's the main issue. But I do think this is definitely fair due to binding vows. Like binding vows basically kind of carries this argument in my opinion.
able to detect if something is a danger or not and be able to run automatically without your conscious input.
I mean, binding vows should theoretically be able to technically do like anything as long as it's not like a super unfair trade or whatever.
Especially every sorcerer at Jujutsu High should be having a conversation with Gojo about that. How did you train your... And let's not use, like, because I'm Gojo Satoru, I could do whatever I want. Okay, listen, that's a cop-out answer. If I'm a sorcerer and I knew Gojo was doing that, bro, I'm having a detailed conversation with him. I'm right...
I mean, honestly, the only other smart sorcerers that I could see like being able to do this like Gojo would have to be extremely talented ones. Think of Higuruma. Think of potentially even Kusakabe, I'm not sure. Sukuna easily, heck, maybe even Maharaga could like adapt. I don't know. I don't know.
Putting some stuff down. I'm figuring out.
Oh, and Kenjaku easily. Yeah. Kenjaku's also extremely smart and can learn. Yeah. Honorable mention, Yuta Kotsu. I don't think he would be able to do it though.
Either do binding vows or whatever head canon knowledge that Gojo is running with, and I'm figuring out how to do that for my technique. When you're able to pre-program,
And we all know Dabura could do it in like 1 second, right? Earth's sorcery is quite advanced.
your curse technique.
It's actually crazy. Didn't Dabura get like a domain expansion and reverse curse technique in like 2 chapters or something, bro? Like he just learns extremely fast. I think Dabura learns faster than Sukuna.
To do certain functions that opens up your options in combat so aggressively, and Gojo literally just pre-programmed his defensive capacity so that way he doesn't have to worry about being defensive. It's just running independently, but nothing's stopping him from pre-programming his offensive capabilities, his mobility capabilities, and depending on the curse technique you could go really crazy and wild with it. But of course guys, this is just my headcanon. Let me know what you guys think about this idea in general.
It's not a bad headcanon. I think it's a good idea, mostly because you mentioned binding vows. Like binding vows, key thing. If this guy didn't mention binding vows, I probably would still be kind of speculating this, but binding vows can essentially do anything, so I can see this being like a realistic thing. Again, the main issue is Akutami just needs to expand more on how Gojo was able to pre-program his curse technique. But yeah, it's a great idea.